Hey everybody, I'm JJ Johnson, you're watching Reality Survival. And today we are going to talk about, I guess it's kind of a partial survival myth. Not entirely, but I guess I just want to clarify some things with regards to activated charcoal when used for treatment of poisons. I've got a bunch of notes down here, and I'll kind of talk about where I got the information. I'll also have links to all of the information that I got down in the description below. And I highly recommend that you go and do your research, look at these links, look at other links that you find, and educate yourself on the use of activated charcoal before you use it. Because, you know, the Mayo Clinic, WebMD, and the U.S. National Library of Medicine all pretty highly recommend that you don't use it at home. There are some other resources that do recommend having it at home to keep on hand because it's, you know, effective for a lot of poisons and stuff. But there is differing opinions on the subject. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started. And, you know, the reason I'm doing this video is because what I knew about using activated charcoal was pretty much just that, yeah, it works. Use activated charcoal if you get poisoned. Didn't know anything about dosing. Didn't know anything about the fact that there are certain drugs that they don't recommend, you know, if you take certain drugs on a regular basis that you shouldn't use it. I also didn't know that there are certain types of poison that it's not effective with, you know, and quite a few of them too. So that's really what I'm going to talk about here. I'm just going to kind of hit some high points, but I'm providing you guys the links down in the description so that you can go and learn and read, you know, more about this. So anyway, with that, I looked at an article from poison.org, and I'm just going to read a couple of things from that article here. It says the bottom line: activated charcoal keeps swallowed drugs and poisons from being absorbed from the gut into the bloodstream. It's a highly effective treatment for many poisons. The efficacy of activated charcoal depends on how quickly it's given and the poisonous substance swallowed. The sooner the activated charcoal is given after a drug or chemical is swallowed, the better it works. So quickness and time is of the essence there. It goes on to say, overall, activated charcoal is well tolerated. There are studies that show that it works well for some ingestions and not so well with others. We'll talk more about that here in a second. It is the most widely used method of gastrointestinal decontamination in emergency rooms today. And several of the articles did say that it's a very common thing, and it's even more common than getting your stomach pumped and those kind of things. Okay, WebMD says, when used with other treatments, activated charcoal may be effective for acute poisoning, but it's not useful in some cases, including poisoning from cyanide, lithium, alcohol, and iron tablets. It's also not to be used to treat poisons such as strong acids or bases. With the poisoning, don't guess about the right thing to do. Call your local poison center immediately. Get to an emergency room. You need to use activated charcoal as soon as possible if it is recommended. Okay. Here's a little bit more. This is from the U.S. National Library of Medicine. Again, links are in the description below. And it says activated charcoal is used in the emergency treatment of certain kinds of poisoning. It helps to prevent poison from being absorbed from the stomach into the body. Sometimes several doses of activated charcoal are needed to treat severe poisoning. Ordinarily, this medicine is not effective and should not be used in poisoning if corrosive agents such as alkalis or lye, strong acids, iron, boric acid, lithium, petroleum products, for example, cleaning fluid, coal oil, fuel oil, gasoline, kerosene, or paint thinner, or alcohols have been swallowed, since it will not prevent these poisons from being absorbed into the body. So that's what I'm saying. There's a pretty long list there. And I have another source from eMedicine Health that says the following. It adds some other things too. Activated charcoal is considered to be the most effective single agent available. It is used after a person swallows and absorbs almost any toxic drug or chemical, with the exceptions of lithium or escalith or lithabid, strong acids or bases, metals, and inorganic materials such as sodium, iron, lead, arsenic, iodine, fluorine, and boric acid. Alcohol such as ethanol, methanol, isopropyl alcohol, and glycols, think antifreeze there, and acetone. Also, hydrocarbons such as petroleum distillates and plant hydrocarbons such as pine oil. So as you can see from those different sources, they don't all list the same things. And when you put that together, that's actually a pretty long list of things that it's not effective with. So I thought that was interesting. Another thing is that if you're told, like if you call the poison center and they tell you to use a syrup of Ipiac, which induces vomiting, you want to make sure that you do the Ipiac first, you allow the patient to vomit, and then you administer the activated charcoal. And basically because what will happen is they will interact, and the activated charcoal will absorb the Ipiac and keep it from working, and they can counteract each other, and then you're not going to have it expelled. So that's kind of important, really, because just so you know, although some patients, from what I was reading, may end up vomiting, having some nausea or vomiting because of the grittiness of the activated charcoal and stuff, that's not actually what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to basically the toxins attach itself in the pores of the activated charcoal, and it passes through your digestive system, and then you excrete it out in your stool. It's not made to actually cause or induce vomiting. So, and also your stools will be black if you take it. That's common and normal. You might see some darkening of your urine and stuff as well. Okay, so let's see here. Now there is. I found some information from the Department of Clinical Pharmacology in the University of Helsinki, and they say the following about this, about using activated charcoal. They say the blind administration of charcoal neither prevents later gastric emptying, nor does it cause serious adverse effects, provided that pulmonary aspiration in obtunded patients is prevented. So basically, what it's saying there is it can't hurt to try, essentially, if that's all that you have, but you need to be careful about patients who are not awake and who are not alert, because what can happen is if it can get into the lungs, and if it's not mixed up properly and that kind of thing, and that can cause a problem respiratory wise. So you want to make sure that the patients are alert if you're giving it to them. Otherwise, if they're not alert, then you need to obviously get them to an emergency room where they'll do like an intubation and then put it in that way. So I'm going to put a link to a Mayo Clinic article down here. There's a long list of drugs that I can't hardly pronounce that you should not, or usually are not, they won't prescribe activated charcoal if you're taking those drugs. So there's quite a few of them. I was actually kind of surprised. And as far as dosing goes, again, the Mayo Clinic, I think, has the best information on this from what I could find. I will put a link to that down below as a very generic, prescription or whatever. They say that essentially 25 grams to 100 grams for an adult, mixed in like a powdered solution mixed with water. And this is some of the stuff that I picked up recently. And see if that'll focus for you. I don't know if it is. And it's called Vividoria. It's an activated charcoal, hardwood derived, but this whole thing is only 34 grams. Okay, so if you say the average, and this is a pretty consistent average from what I've seen on different sites, is 50 grams is average. This is only about 2/3 of a dose. You actually have to take quite a bit of it for it to be effective. So I think the bottom line is, for me, after reading about this, is that I think stuff like this is good to have in your medical kit in your house in case you have accidental poisonings, especially if you live like at your bug out location where you're a long ways from medical treatment, or if there was a grid down situation, obviously. But even if you live just in a somewhat of a rural area where ambulances aren't going to be able to get to you quickly and stuff, because you really need to take this stuff within 30 minutes of the poisoning to an hour of the poisoning if possible. So, you know, by the time you get to an emergency room, you get processed in and all these kind of things, you know, it could be longer than an hour, and it's going to start to reduce the effectiveness of it. So having some on hand and then calling the poison center, telling them the situation, and being able to just dose it out according to their instructions would be a pretty good thing, in my opinion. But again, you got to have enough, because, you know, if you just bought like one container like I did, because I didn't know before I started researching this how much I would need, you know, 34 grams is not going to be enough. So I'm going to need to get, you know, another few containers just for the initial dose. And then for a lot of situations, they actually recommend doing continued doses every 4 to 6 hours at, you know, differing amounts. Again, you can take a look at the information down below, because I'm not trying to prescribe anything. I'm just letting you know essentially that, you know, you need to have, probably, if you wanted to do the follow-on treatment at home and not have to ever get to the emergency room, you may need like 200 grams or so in total, just for the basic treatment. So anyway, I want to try to keep this as short as possible. I really hope that you guys go and you look at the links down below, because that's my point in giving you this information, is just sharing with you some research that I've done. I just wanted to hit some high points and talk about its usefulness, but I also wanted to talk about the fact that it's not effective with a lot of different items that I mentioned earlier. So anyway, guys, as always, I definitely appreciate it when you click the thumbs up button, when you share it with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. And don't forget to live the 6 Ps. Proper prior preparation prevents poor performance. And I will also put a link to some of this stuff and some different types of activated charcoal down in the description below from Amazon. If you guys want to grab some, then that's cool. But I do want to tell you that you really should look at these links, because it names different types of stuff that is not this stuff here, that are well-known kind of, you know, treatments. And so those might be some of the better ones to get. I just got this because it was food grade and it was fairly inexpensive, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But apparently there are differing ways that activated charcoal can be made. And so some of them are going to be more effective for just food use. You know, people take it as a supplement and different things like that. And then they're not going to be as effective for medicinal treatments as other types. So with that, like I said, you really just need to do some research, but I wanted to share this stuff with you because I thought it was kind of useful. And I think that there is kind of a general sense that you can just use it for anything, and that's not the case. So anyway, take care, stay safe. I'll see you in another video here real soon.